Magnitude 8.8 quake striking Chile around 3:30 a.m. local time. The epicenter near the city of Concepcion, about 200 miles south of the capital of Santiago.
Now, the National Emergency Agency is reporting at least 147 people have been killed. Certainly that number will change because it is still early. For more on the situation there on the ground, let's bring in Jen Ross, a freelance journalist with the Christian Science Monitor. Jen joins us on the telephone live from Santiago. And Jen, for those, it's just now top of the hour. They may not have heard the details of what happened. Explain what you felt, what you heard and saw.
Well, 3 o'clock in the morning, most people are asleep, as was I. And suddenly the bed started shaking. And it can happen with a stronger tremor that the bed will shake, but this one was different. It was stronger. My husband sat up and said, "It's an earthquake," and I ran to the room to get our almost 2-year-old daughter, and things started falling off of the shelves and the walls, and we stood in the door frame as the walls and the floor shook around us, and the actual shaking itself lasted quite long, almost 3 minutes. And here in Santiago, the magnitude was a bit lower than the epicenter. It was 7.5 on the Richter scale, but still very strong. And as people have noted all morning, stronger even than what happened in Haiti. But we're fortunate enough to have stronger and more resistant buildings here.
So Jen, it's the middle of the night. It's dark outside. What did you do when it stopped?
We have emergency lighting, so we grabbed the emergency flashlights, to try to get a sense of what things looked like, because as it shook, it was all in the dark, and so we had no idea how much, if we were going to step on glass or what was broken around us. So I grabbed my daughter and took her to the room as my husband cleared the way of any debris and started cleaning up around the apartment. And as we were in the room, my daughter, who was also shaking, was, speaking very loudly and, "Oh, things falling, as we looked out the window, we opened the window to see if we could see anything outside, and the whole block was dark. Of course, we lost electricity. Everyone lost electricity around us, and it's quite odd in a city of 6 million to look out and see darkness. So we could see the odd light here and there from emergency generators that started, but very dark, and suddenly we saw a number of explosions as well, which we have heard conflicting reports. Some of them may have been gas-related explosions, natural gas, and others were transformers, electrical transformers exploding. So It was a little unsettling to be in the midst of all of that at 3 in the morning, and definitely the strongest earthquake Chile has felt in 50 years, and the first for my family.
And Jen, indeed, look, you're a reporter. Once daybreak occurred, I'm sure you assessed visually the situation, and what did you find? What have you seen in the many hours since that quake devastated so much of Chile?
Well, in Santiago, of course, the devastation isn't as bad as it has been closer to the epicenter, but still, 7.5. There's damage, visible damage all over the city. Buildings, some buildings in Santiago did collapse. Some older historic buildings have been very badly damaged, with rubble all over what used to be beautiful stairs on the front of the Museum of Fine Arts. Some other new buildings that had been built in the area of Maipú in Santiago actually toppling sideways. Bridges, of course, that collapsed. I think you saw some of that footage as well. And in our building, going down the stairs, because you can't use the emergency elevator. I mean, the elevators are off limits after an earthquake. So you have to go and use the stairs. Luckily, we're only on the 6th floor. It's a 25-story building, so some people aren't so lucky. But noticeably, as you walk down the stairs, there are chunks of debris or chunks of cement that have fallen from the side of the building. And the building next to us actually has a visible crack running all the way up the middle. It's not broken, but there's a crack that is visible from the outside.
Jen, to the extent that there were some buildings and bridges that collapsed, homes that have fallen to the ground, are there certain rescue teams seeking out those who may be trapped, who may be still alive?
Oh, definitely. Chile has a very professional and very fast national emergency service, and the military, as well as all of the security forces, are out doing everything they can to try to get survivors and so forth. All of these cities, including Santiago, have been declared catastrophe zones, and we've been told not to do any unnecessary travel and not to try to leave our homes in as much as possible, to try to reduce the flow of people on the streets and allow emergency vehicles to get through. Of course, Santiago is easier because there hasn't been as much damage to major roads and infrastructure, but you see huge craters in the street and even, 10-foot shifts in the street where you can see that it's physically fallen down further south. So luckily we haven't seen that here, but there's a mishmash of different impacts across the country.
Well, Jen Ross, a freelance journalist with the Christian Science